I'm not saying I'm sorry for my opinions. I'm saying, like, I'm sorry, what the f were you guys trying to do as writers here? Hello, and welcome back to Embodying Mystical Mac. I'm Mac, and if you're new here, thank you so much for joining. If you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're listening on the podcast, thank you so much for supporting that medium. If you want to just come to YouTube and check out my setup, I've added some little Halloween fun. I have my little pumpkin that I had before, my fuzzy pumpkin from Target, and then I have my amazing witch's hat that I got from Disney World. That is Hocus Pocus inspired, particularly grimoire inspired. So check that out if you want to. I've also got my yellow shawl today. It's making a comeback because I needed to get this video out, y'all. I don't have time to change into a costume right now. I literally just needed to get this video done. If you want to skip ahead just a little bit, I'm just gonna give you a little bit of a very quick life update right now. I'm starting a new job. I'm very, very excited. I'm opening up a restaurant. I've never done that before. I'm gonna be on like the opening server staff, and it's gonna be really cool, but I'm about to be super busy, and essentially I was busy healing because I went to Disney World. It was really, really, really fun. For those of you that saw my community post, I shared a few photos, but I came back super sick. Like, I came back just with a horrible cold, and it was a whole thing. And I took some time to heal, and then I had orientation, and then I had to do my onboarding work and all that junk, and my apartment was a disaster because, you know, I was sick and was taking care of myself. So one thing just piled into another, and long story short, we're finally getting to this video. I will be making the other ones as well. Just be a little patient with me because I am working literally 6 days this coming week, so there is all that. But I'll have the weekend. I'll be able to get some stuff going on the weekend for y'all. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this video. We're gonna dive into season 2, episode 4 of The Wheel of Time, and let's just get into my notes. Let's just get into it. Okay, first of all, before I go on, I realize the finale has already happened, and there have been people who have said that they actually really enjoyed how this season turned out. So I am curious to see where they take this, and just want to put that out there. Let's just get into my notes. Okay, so we start the episode off with essentially Ishamael releasing Lanfear. And I really would have appreciated if they just would have kept her name out of it, or at least if they did keep her name in it, like, would have made it so unrecognizable in the old tongue that we didn't quite know what was happening. Like, as book readers, I would have appreciated a little bit more mystery in this situation. I loved that whole poem and the whole cold open. I just didn't appreciate that her name was so very clearly in there, so we knew who was being called forth, even though they tried to hide it. I appreciated the FX with the Moondial situation, and I wrote Gore to hide her identity. Is there more to this? The whole, like, blood calls blood, like, it really, like, daughter of the night. I don't remember if Lanfear was referred to as the daughter of the night in the books. Very much possible. I appreciated how she was introduced. If we were gonna hide her identity, I would have appreciated her name to be way more unrecognizable. I don't remember Anvera from the books, meaning Moiraine's sister, so that was a cool moment that they did. I know that in the books she is supposed to be her younger sister, so they obviously changed it to, like, exacerbate the point that Leandrin is making, how I said I age much slower, and therefore, you know, there are certain tolls that takes on a life because of that. And we see that through Moiraine's, you know, examining of the painting in her bedroom, or that sitting room, wherever that is, you know, with her sister, where she's obviously the child and her sister is the older woman. Moiraine suddenly super shrewd and inconsiderate. I just don't like how dirty they're doing Moiraine, because Moiraine is a woman on a mission. She's very driven, and I recognize that in their rendition of this, she has had a very, you know, big, even allegorical for, like, the R word, the SAR word, excuse my censoring for YouTube purposes. Even that being an allegory for that, like, it still doesn't change, you know, the fact that she lost her connection to the power. And I don't appreciate that we don't have clarity on this, because for the longest time, I genuinely thought she was just, like, cut off and sealed away, not in the stilling sort of way, but in a way that I know can happen, like, from certain examples in the book where essentially, like, Forsaken, you know, are able to seal somebody off so that they can only channel when they will it and those kinds of things. Essentially, like, being able to control someone like a damane without actually having an adam. And that's what I thought happened to her. And then they kind of really went hard on, like, the stilling stuff, and it really made it seem like she stilled. But then she still is able to, like, mask the bond. So I'm just, like, very confused. All of that junk aside, though, I don't appreciate that they're like character assassinating Moiraine in a sense that she is considerate. And as cold as she can be for her own purposes, she's not shrewd. Like, she's not shrewd and so detached from her emotions. Like, it doesn't quite add up for me, honestly. And I don't know if this is just me, like, having such a reverence for Moiraine in the books and just liking that so much more, or if it's like really them just like taking this character in a completely unlikable route. Like, I will admit, I'm not entirely sure if this is a personal preference or if other people are seeing this and going, yo dude, like, this doesn't make sense. Like, they made her seem like she gave a shit, and now the way she's behaving, it's like she gives a shit, but she gives a shit like in a way that doesn't actually seem to help anybody directly. So I don't really appreciate that. I'm still not sold on Raylene. That's what I'm calling Rand and Celine. I'm just not sold on it. It's like one of the weaker plot points for me, and it just, I don't know, man. It's not hitting for me. The ring, oh my god, the fucking ring, you guys. The Aes Sedai rings are still absolutely awful, and they look even worse without a stone in them. But I do appreciate the accepted dresses, although I don't appreciate that there isn't any hem embroidering. Like, it would have been very easy for them to just add what they did on the sleeves, on the cuffs, to the hem, like they have it in the books. I think it would further, divide them from the novices, which is the whole last point. And it was something that was really easy to do for the art department, and I don't understand why we did away with it. But again, not a huge deal. So Nynaeve is suddenly broken. I understand the perspective of she lived a whole life that she really enjoyed in there. She lost a child, supposedly, to the Arches, right? I say supposedly because we don't fully know what goes on in those things. We don't fully know if it's real. Like, we just don't fully know. I recognize that what happened would have broken anyone, but to be honest, this whole, like, broken thing would have been so much more believable to me if we had actually had the trials not similarly exactly to how they worded the books, in the sense that, like, I need the same things to happen in the same order of events to go down the same way. No, I mean, if the way things were executed made sense, like they made sense in the book. So, for example, right, that last trial where she has to call back the arch because she doesn't go through it the first time. Those of us that read the books, we know that that is one of the most beautifully written, one of the most excruciating character moments. And it's because she has to leave this perfect life. Absolutely perfect life. Nothing has gone wrong. Nothing is going wrong. Nothing's probably going to go wrong in this world. And she still has to leave it. The difference with what they did in the books, and why the brokenness to me would have been, in the show, and why the brokenness to me would have been more believable if they had had a similar thing, meaning she didn't leave because everybody she loved died. She didn't leave because she had no fucking way out, emotionally, mentally, whatever, right? If you were in that trial and you watched every person you absolutely adore die, and the only person left is your child, you will attempt to leave with your child. It just lets me know that they didn't quite understand what the Arches were about. That they didn't quite understand what the trial really is. It's being able to make the hardest decision you could possibly make and still make it. And make it swiftly. Make it in time, right? The way back will come but once. Unless you're Nynaeve and you pull it back. But the whole point of the trial is not for them to leave a situation that they can't help but leave, because that's the only fucking way to cope anyway. And to me, yes, do I understand mourning a life that you wished you had? Do I understand mourning the tragedy that she witnessed, even though it wasn't real, physically in the world that she currently lives in? Sure, I can understand all that. But to me, the brokenness would make tenfold more sense if she had truly been mourning a life she didn't want to leave. A life she had to leave because she realizes it was part of a trial in the arches. And is that life ever going to be real? Is she ever going to get a chance at that life? Not she got to live that life, got it taken away from her, and then had to go back to a world without it. I'm sorry, to me, that second scenario just is not as powerful. And her brokenness to me seems very out of character for Nynaeve. If anything, the Nynaeve I know would be very you know what? Fuck it. I lost everybody in there. It was fucking awful. Yes, I had a kid, but I'm glad this kid doesn't exist in the world that I currently exist in, because this world's fucking crazy. And you know what? I'm glad she doesn't exist in that world, because everybody fucking died there that she loves because of a Trolloc attack. And I don't know if Fades were involved too. But regardless, it just, to me, it just served as, a first idea concept of how do we endear Nynaeve to Liandrin. I know. Give Liandrin a son that's way too old, and then give Nynaeve a daughter that she loses in the arches. I'm sorry. It just, and when I say I'm sorry, I'm not saying I'm sorry for my opinions. I'm saying, I'm sorry, what the fuck were you guys trying to do as writers here? In what world did that all come together super seamlessly? Because to me, it genuinely, it felt inconsistent, and it felt essentially a little bit of, not a little bit, a lot of bit of a lazy choice, because, or it wasn't lazy, it was they just have absolutely no fucking clue what the trials are about, what the arches are about, and they made that abundantly clear in how they executed Nynaeve's trial. Yeah, I hate it. I hated that Nynaeve was just this broken bird the whole time, just so we can have her be endeared to Liandrin, so Liandrin could go and betray them anyway, like she was gonna do. It's just, I don't buy it. I don't like it. I think there was a better way for her character, and it started with them doing the trials right, which they didn't, to me. Next all I wrote is Land Jesus! Because Land Jesus was back. God, he just looks, art department, you guys, you should have just kept his fucking top knot. I'm sorry, I don't know what y'all are doing. It's distracting to me. Alana's family seems sweet and believable, so I did appreciate that. I'm still not clear on what exactly happened to Moiraine. I talked about this earlier. I'm still not clear on what the fuck happened to her. I don't like that. It's so confusing. Character assassination, Moiraine retcon. She's an ice queen now. Yeah, so she went from being super pissy with Lan and basically kind of mistreating him in this kind of bitchy mean girl way, and now she's just turned ice queen, which, okay, sure. The many faces and moods of Moiraine in this show. Okay, next question. This is pertaining to Logain. How can a gentle man train Rand? Because I'm pretty sure that it's Osmodian or Osmodine. I've known his name to be pronounced as Osmodian, but I'm pretty sure it was him, disguised as that merchant or whatever, right? That teaches Rand, or if he's not disguised as the merchant, he's with the merchants when he's in the waste, and he can channel. He's not very powerful, but he can actively channel. How in the goddamn hell can Logain teach Rand to channel when he himself can't anymore? And all he cares about is essentially unaliving himself because he can't anymore. Make it make sense. Also, how could Errol effectively train Rand in the sword forms without being able to actually hold even a sparring sword to show him things? Without being able to hand him a book where the forms are shown? Again, they're trying to make shit make sense to me that doesn't make sense to me in this way. Just to get around land teaching Rand, because we're way beyond that, and that's not even possible anymore, and that's infuriating. Yeah, I just wrote goofy ass Moiraine and Logain scene. To me, it's all goofy. The fact that she's expecting a gentleman to train him, the fact that she put Logain there so that Rand would end up there, and how she knew all this. Like, again, it's almost like they're trying to make Moiraine seem like this omniscient goddess who knows how everything's gonna go, but she's like acting like a bratty child at the same time. And I'm like, I'm sorry, bitch, you can't have both. She's either like a very serene, very aware, shows her consideration enough for people to realize that she's aware, or you can have little bratty little bitch who basically just hurts her warder for no goddamn good reason, gives no shits about her relationships, even with family, somehow still has like this omniscient knowledge and serenity, which she doesn't possess. Like, it none of it checks out to me, in the sense that it's just too much contradictory messaging around Moiraine for me, and it made that scene with Logain just very goofy. I'm also just like, Rosamund Pike is just leaving a horrible taste in my mouth because of how she's playing Moiraine, and I know that that's not her, like, entirely on her. Like, there's script to be considered, there's who is directing her to be considered, but just the entire character assassination of Moiraine of this show is just putting a horrible taste in my mouth for, like, any time I see her face, which is a little bit unfortunate. Horrible moppers, Egwene and Elaine. This is me just being funny and nitpicky, but I was, like, watching them mop, and I'm like, you know, Elaine is the daughter heir. Like, she's probably never mopped anything in her life, but, like, Egwene, what is your excuse? Your dad freaking owned an inn. Anyways, more nonsensical warder training for no goddamn good reason, just so Nynaeve can have a moment with a thirsty warder, and we can further prop her up as, oh my god, you're so amazing, you championed the archer. Like, I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, this show is just making me tired, honestly. Leandrin showdown was kind of fun to watch. I don't appreciate that we're, like, putting Leandrin in this place of, like, she cares so much about people. She doesn't. She fucking doesn't. The way she talks about her son is plenty information on the level of selfishness and self-centeredness and self-interestedness, and the lengths to which she'll go to be selfish is very apparent to me in that conversation she has with Nynaeve, which I'm sure I'll get to my notes at some point. But essentially, if I didn't write something down about that, she basically says that, like, you know, he's the only thing in this world that's truly mine. He's a fucking person, you person. I know I came out like that. But legit, Leandrin, he's your fucking son, and he's a person. So for you to be referring to him as a goddamn object that you just need to keep to yourself, that just tells me, like, you don't give a shit about anything. Like, you don't give a shit about people in the way that the show is trying to make us think you do. You just don't. And they told on themselves in that moment, because no actual parent who has, you know, the selflessness, consciousness of a parent, like, and I'm not saying parents need to be selfless, period, as in, like, you know, deny their own needs and things like that. No, what I mean is, like, part of that parent selflessness that leads to aware and conscious and good parenting, which obviously Leandrin has no idea of how to do any of that, evidential by her son essentially being locked up for his whole life and then being horrifically sick now. I know natural things could have happened, but she herself admits that she kept him locked away from the world on purpose. So, like, she purposely, yeah, anyway. You need to accept that your child is a person in their own right, and you need to be okay with them being out in the world and making their own choices. And the fact that it doesn't matter that it came from the intention of protecting him. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Your intention does not matter more than your impact, especially in those situations. The fact that she, one, describes her son like a fucking possession, like it's a ring, like he's a ring, like he's a precious item, you know, instead of, like, a real person, and then tries to justify that that's the reason she essentially, like, had him live such a sheltered life that he probably didn't live at all. Like, this bitch cares about nobody. So, like, let's please stop pretending that that's what's happening. I do like the actress who plays Leanne, though. I just don't like how they are also doing her and Swan dirty, because, like, where the fuck is Swan? And why is Leanne, like, just so cavalier about the fact that no reports have come back? Like, it's just dumb. It's really dumb. Finally, we get some explanation for the wolf visions, and, you know, actually, this is where I really think the show went right. I will say it. I will, genuinely, because whenever I watch shit, you know, I am rooting for it. I want it to be good. I really do. I would love for it to be good. You know, I get so excited. Like, I did my Talk to Me review, and I was so excited because it was so good. When they do something good, I'm gonna be like, you did something good. And the Wolf Brother shit, really well done. Really appreciate the explanation. Like, all of the questions prior, like, totally forgiven, because this explanation was given so well. The way that they took Robert Jordan's idea of, like, wolves transferring images and expanded upon that. Like, if they had just done that with, you know, the rest of the source material, we would probably have kind of a masterpiece of a show on our hands, you guys. But no. At least they did it with this, though. I appreciate it. I don't love Elias's acting. It's a little bit too over the top for me. But he's not, like, distracting or anything. It's kind of a subtle thing that I noticed. Oh my god, I just wrote, stop trying to make fucking Layla happen! Let her go! She was unnecessary in the goddamn first place. Like, why do we have to attach this, oh yes, he lost a mate too, to Hopper? Like, Jesus fucking Christ, stop trying to make Layla happen. We are beyond that. We're fucking over it. Be done. Ugh. Okay, flipping on 180 here. Cute Hopper scene. And I'm gonna just expand. Good explanation. Because they took RJ's description of Perrin saying the wolves sent images and depicted it really, really well. Took a bit of lore. Took a bit more, oh yeah. Yeah, so it took a bit more lore, I said. It took a bit more lore for us to kind of, like, get there. We needed to, like, understand a little bit more. But I'm glad that the lore of it finally came. Like, and I'm glad that it was, like, very clearly just, like, explained by Elias. It didn't feel like an exposition-heavy scene. It actually felt very natural. Aside from, like, the slightly over-the-top acting from Elias and certain things that I just kind of felt were unnecessary, like when he's cooking the meat and, you know, Elias is eating raw meat and he's like, oh, you'll lose your taste for cooked food soon. It's like, okay, you guys, you're just going a little too hard here. Like, it's not that serious. Like, I'm pretty sure Perrin, like, just eats things very rare, but he doesn't just eat shit raw from my memory. But if I remember incorrectly from the books, feel free to let me know. Please comment on it. Just be kind about it, because I genuinely don't remember. I'm not trying to be obstinate here. But to me, like, even if there was, like, instances of that in the book, it really wasn't big enough for there to be, like, a comment on it. Like, I think, because he's not a wolf. He is not. He's a human. And, like, Elias kind of makes it clear that there's, like, a gray area there. And so, to me, it's just kind of a little contradictory to, like, throw in the thing about the raw meat. If it's not contradictory, it's unnecessary. That's how I feel about it. Especially because the line could have easily been like, oh, you'll enjoy cooking that a little bit less soon. You know, like, you'll enjoy it a little bit less cooked than that at some point. That kind of thing. So it kind of, like, shows us, like, oh, okay, there's, like, a tie. There's a similarity to the wolves. But it's not like, yeah, you'll basically want to eat what they eat. Because to me, that's just going a little bit too far. Especially right after we had this, like, awesome little explanation about the Wolf Brother thing. So just kind of took me out for a second. Okay, so more conversations that normalize masking and make the warders sound like glorified lovers. If you can't tell, I'm referring to that conversation that, I can't remember his name right now, but the blonde warder, Alana's blonde warder had with Lan, how he was talking about how when they first, you know, brought him into the group, they didn't like the dynamic, and basically they all agreed that Alana would mask his bond except for on the battlefield and in bed. This is something that I don't appreciate them taking creative liberty with, because the water bond is not meant to be masked. Masking is something that is done temporarily for very specific reasons, and in fact, like, part of the beauty of the water bond is that the warder is not only responsible for physically protecting the Aes Sedai, but at times even protecting her from herself. And how can he do that if he's consistently masked away from her? That just doesn't make any sense. If that is the route that Alana in the show chose to go with her warders, she just shouldn't have added that blonde warder, period. She should have added someone who she was okay sharing the full connection with all the time. That's just my opinion on it. I don't like the creative freedom they took with that. I already hate this storyline. Like, from the get, I already hate the way that they do Moiraine and Lan's relationship, and basically lack thereof at this point. And this just seems like little patchwork, because they created a mess with the way that they're doing their relationship. So now they have to kind of patch it up and try to give Lan a purpose for some reason, because he has none now, by the way, because his was always tied to Moiraine, and it turns out the show didn't figure out anything better for him, and instead are doing this thing here. I don't know what's going to happen in coming episodes just yet, but like, I hate this. This conversation felt entirely unnecessary, because I wish this plot point just did not exist. And if they are going to go so hard with this, I wish they would have done something different. I wish they wouldn't have just normalized this, because it is not fucking normal. And the fact that he's making, like, they're basically using the bond as an allegory for goddamn marriage, and it is not that. It is not even close to that. So many warders and Aes Sedai have no romantic relationship whatsoever. It has nothing to do with that. And the fact that they keep pushing this shit and, like, kind of pushing this subliminally really fucking kills me. Because, again, bastardizes the warder Aes Sedai bond and makes them look like glorified fucking husbands. Like, it's annoying. It's so annoying. Like, have you, like, it, like, when he was asking something about, like, you know, no one bond is the same, yada yada, it just makes me hear, like, you know, not every marriage is the same. And to me, it boils my blood, because it just, that is not what that relationship is. And you are stripping power away from warders by presenting it that way. And I fucking hate it. Okay. Let's go forward and backwards at the same time. How can a bond be masked by an Aes Sedai who can't touch the goddamn power? Make it make sense. The bond is created with the one power. If a woman is stilled, she suddenly has no access to the one power, meaning that bond should have felt like it was severed. So how can she mask it? Is she not stilled? Can you actually explain this? Because you haven't. And if they don't explain this by the end of the season, I'm gonna be fucking mad. Stilled or shielded, she wouldn't be able to feel or manipulate the bond because she can't touch the power. Ah! It's like they looked at 2 + 2 and was like, that equals 5, you guys. Make it make sense. I'm sorry. I just can't. What were y'all thinking? Oh, Celine giving details about Luz. That was interesting. Yeah, that was what it was. I kind of appreciated the weird hidden exposition. My next note is just Brandon Celine bore me. I am bored by Raylene. It just is what it is. Dice! We finally see Dice. We finally see Matt and Dice. That was exciting. I'm so deprived for, like, actual Matt that just seeing him play with Dice was like Christmas for me. Okay, this is just like a note that I made. Nynaeve's delayed... These are all notes that I made, but I mean, like, this isn't a question or anything like that. It's like, literally, I wrote this down to mention it. Nynaeve's delayed trial was to bond her to Liandrin. And then I just wrote, oh my god, is this even an adaptation anymore? No, it's not. Again, that whole extended last trial, just when we got to this scene between Liandrin and Nynaeve where they're talking about, you know, she's like, who did you lose in there? As if everybody loses somebody in there. As if they're even allowed to discuss the trial. by the way, because they're not allowed to discuss the trial with each other as far as I remember. So the fact that she even says like, oh, who did you lose in there, just implies that apparently they have been discussing the trial. And I know that, you know, Nynaeve tried to talk about it after like the first couple, and they were very clear, like, you're washed of your sins, let it go. I know it wasn't explicitly said, but it all just felt really goofy, really shoehorned in, really like, oh yeah, let's make Nynaeve's trial like this so that they can have this scene, and they can have, like, it literally felt like there's a puzzle and there are pieces that kind of look like they fit together, but they don't actually fit together, and they just jam them together. That's how this whole thing fucking feels to me. Right? So, like, Leandra being like, well, who did you lose in there? And Nynaeve being like, oh, my daughter. And then them having this like, bonding moment over it. I swear to God, that's the only reason her trial went the way that it went. That's just, like, the intuition, the vibe that I got. And no, this isn't an adaptation anymore. But I'm going to act like it is because they're acting like it is. So I'm going to be as harsh or as not as I need to be. Leandrin's a horrible parent. I told you I wrote a note about this. Not scared of losing her kid because it's her kid, but because he's, quote, the only thing that's ever been mine, quote. Yeah, she's not scared of losing him because, you know, he's her son and he's gonna go, like, forever one day. She's scared to lose him because he's the only thing that's truly her own. Eek. And if anybody wants to argue that I'm being too harsh with this, Liandrin is Liandrin. If you didn't know, she's Black Aja. She's a pile of shit as far as a person goes in the book and in this show. And even though there are moments where they tried to humanize her, to me, she's kind of the epitome of what evil is in the Wheel of Time, which is characters who have been hurt and then use that hurt to fuel more hurt and then justify their actions because they have been hurt. That shit's evil. That shit's not okay. Justify their actions because they've been hurt, even after they are clearly powerful enough to protect themselves, to not inflict hurt. So, all the humanization, fine, whatever. Are you, like, was it worth it? Was it worth it if she's literally just gonna up and betray the girls anyway? I don't think it was. I think we wasted way too much goddamn time with Liandrin and didn't actually spend time in important parts of the story with our core characters that we should have been spending time with. I think their desire to bond Nynaeve to Liandrin just completely fucked up Nynaeve's storyline, especially where the arches are concerned. And it's all just a little infuriating and feels just really like horrible choices, one right after the other for me. Yeah, I said, is this Nynaeve and Liandrin bond really a thing? And then of course it's not because they get betrayed at the end. But what else did I say? Liandrin is obviously manipulating Nynaeve to go to Falma, so, you know, so there's that. Lan talks about, wait, what did I write here? What the fuck did I write here? Oh my god, okay. I guess I said Lan talks about Maxon, is that his name? That must be the other warder's name. Like, he's mature. Which in the books he is. I don't know what that means. I think what that means is that they're making Lan seem really immature in certain situations. And then in that conversation, it's almost like they're trying to say, like, oh, but he's mature now. I think that's what I was trying to say. what son and what queen, Anver? So when Anver says that her son is about to marry the queen, and I'm just wondering what queen, which one we're talking about here. General question. First mention of eyes and ears, which I appreciated. The eyes and ears network is a very big thing to the Aes Sedai. Each Aja kind of has their own. And it essentially just means, you know, the kind of like if you watch Game of Thrones, like the Varys's little birds, right, that like flew around everywhere and gathered information. So essentially that's what it means by eyes and ears, and I appreciated that. And that gets mentioned when Moiraine basically like realizes that all the people that used to give her information now give her sister information. And then that's when Anver basically is like, hey girl, I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to lend you the eyes and ears that were once yours, but you gotta ask nicely over some tea. And I thought that was great. That was actually a really fun scene in my opinion, and I really like the woman that they got to play Anver. I also really appreciate, I didn't say this in the beginning, but I really appreciated like like them showing her like getting ready in the morning and stuff like that. I just thought that was really interesting before Moiraine gets there. Like that's the kind of like establishing shit that I think actually helps the plot and gives us like just a little bit more insight into things that we actually need insight into. Oh yeah, I just said Dark Leandrin, here we go. Yes for something. I do appreciate that she still ends up betraying the girls just like she's supposed to. I did really love, like, that actress really delivered that one line to Elaine when she's like, you are a complication, or something like that. Like, I really enjoyed that. This moment was bittersweet for me because I was simultaneously very excited about the fact that they actually did go this route and really mad that we wasted so much time with humanizing Leandrin, because this betrayal just didn't hit for me. Like, it just didn't hit for me because her character, like I said just a couple minutes ago, there was humanization, but then on the other side you have her saying shit like, you know, I'm sad he's gonna die because he's the only thing that's truly mine. And then just other ways that she talks about her son and how she saw fit to take care of him or not. And then you add in like other things that she's done and ways that she's behaved. Obviously her manipulation of Nynaeve with Falma, the whole thing with Matt, the whole thing with Min, like all of it. It's like she's not, like, that betrayal just didn't hit like y'all think that it would have, at least not for me. So why did we waste all this time? Like, it made me mad, but I was also excited that we actually got that plot point. Min meeting Ishamael, why? I mean, I get it. He's supposed to take away her visions, apparently. Okay, second or third time we hear they call me by many names. Let it go. You've done that already. Let go of the shtick, honestly. Like, it's annoying at this point, and that actor is getting on my last nerve because to me, they're just not properly utilizing Ishamael. I hate the way they've gone with Min's story. I really do. Because, like, the Min that I know doesn't love her abilities, but feels a sense of responsibility for her role in the pattern. Like, it's not just because she loves Rand that she, you know, goes along to help him out. It's also because she knows that she has a role in the pattern and she cannot get away from it no matter what. And she has, like, an awareness of that. And that's part of what makes her such a rad character, because you can obviously tell that this is more of a curse than it is a gift. You can definitely tell that she says it herself oftentimes, like, you know, she wishes she could leave Rand's side. She wishes she not to be in this situation. She wishes all this stuff, but she knows that there is a force keeping her there, and there's a reason that she is there. And this Min that we get here, to me, is just very much like, I don't give two shits. Like, I need to get rid of this thing. I just need to get rid of this thing. And, like, to me, it's just, like, part of, like, what I loved about Min is that, like, innate wisdom that she sort of had. And this Min is just a completely different person, and I don't really vibe with her. The actress is doing a fine job. The problem here is in the core script, in what they made the core of her character and all of it. And I'm still calling that Matt-Min romance. We'll see if I'm right. The editing was super goofy for the meeting with Ishamael. Oh yeah, and then I wrote romance with Matt vibes. Still getting it. We'll see. Yeah, they really fucked Matt's story and Min's right along with it. That's what I wrote. Rand can now control Saidin perfectly. What's the point of Logain then? If we were just talking about him getting trained last time and he didn't get any sort of training, how in the goddamn hell did he just obliterate that fade without any goddamn problems? Why do you writers write one story and then literally proceed to contradict yourselves in the next fucking episode? Yeah, Celine and Raylene, still not it for me. Probably wrote this like 5 times this time. Okay, this is the last thing I wrote. Ready, you guys? Yep, that's the last one. Is Lanfear really about to die after whole goofy ass episode with too much of her in it? No reincarnation. Oh, okay, without much of her in it. And then I gave it a second and watched her come back to life. And then I wrote, no reincarnation, just arbitrarily healing powers. Channelers can't heal themselves, though. So, that last part, they obviously haven't explained this. So, that's an open-ended question. How did she come back to life? Now, for those of you that aren't aware, but you don't care at this point because you're still here, of knowing book things that may not make it into the show, the Forsaken don't just up and reanimate in their now dead bodies. Their souls actually get reincarnated, like they get put into a different body and then they keep going. That is kind of how some of them end up going in the books, where they will die, but then the Dark One will essentially preserve their soul and put it in another body so that they can be embodied again and go forth into the world and continue the havoc they're wreaking. To me, that is a really smart way to do it because it makes the Forsaken human. Like, sure, are they humans that have disproportionate memories and abilities to a regular human living in the Fourth Age? Yes. They have, like, memories from, like, thousands and thousands and thousands of years. They have insane channeling abilities because they curated those channeling abilities during the Age of Legends, right? Which was when the One Power was at its strongest. But even with those things, they are not Superman. They are not superhuman. And the way that the show went about this with just like reanimating her, and I did see like the dark, if you pay attention, like the whites of her eyes, you like see these like flecks of darkness right before she like comes back to life, basically, which can totally be representing the, you know, the Dark One reviving her. It's probably not at all, you know, her being healed, because you can't be healed from death either. It's probably just them removing that aspect of reincarnation and just having the Dark One be able to revive his Forsaken. And from a adaptation standpoint, I understand, you know, not wanting to hire different actresses and things like that, but then just don't kill Lanfear off. Like, find a different way to show how powerful and unstoppable and ruthless she is, and, you know, save the killing of her, if you're gonna have that, for a later time, so that you don't have to just replace your actress right away. But to me, it just felt like a really not thought out and cheap way to be like, oh yeah, she's the most dangerous of them all. Look, she's about to come back to life. Like, it did it at the expense of the Forsaken feeling fallible. And they have to feel fallible. Because if they feel infallible, then why are we watching this show if there's absolutely no fucking hope? So, I don't know. It just, a lot of choices that I feel like they've just shot themselves in the foot, and now they've just been trying to bandage and stop the bleeding. A few choices where I was genuinely impressed and excited. Moiraine's dress in the episode is one of them. Like, her art department, the art department did a really good job with like making, you know, the dress of different regions kind of obvious. So I love how, like, instead of, you know, that dress that we saw in the beginning, which is very like Tarvalon fashion, where it's like she had like the high neck, but it was all very like body tight and things except for the skirt. Now we have this like more, you know, Korean in style, like dressed almost like her sister even, right? It's more tunicky, but like puffy in a way. Like I loved it. I really thought that was really cool. Like the art department did continuously are doing a really good job in this show, except for the fucking rings and not including the hems on the accepted dresses. But other than that, like they're doing really well. The Wolf Brothers shit, really, really cool. Like I said, there was that little tidbit about the meat that I thought was unnecessary, but that's a very, very small gripe, not even really fully a gripe, because they really did like just do the Wolf Brothers stuff really well. If they had treated the rest of the source material like they treated the Wolf Brothers stuff, I really think we would have a unanimously great show on our hands. And I say unanimously because the opinions are still divided. I don't care if you're one of those people who likes it. There are plenty of us out here who just don't vibe. And we can all coexist, by the way. I'm not saying that for any other reason than to say that I really believe that this would have been very much like Game of Thrones-esque, where like it may not be your cup of tea, but you can't deny that it is a great show. Like story, art, all of it just lines up. I think it really would have been that if they were as conscious and careful and reverent to the rest of the source material as they were with the Wolf Brothers stuff. So yeah, this episode just kind of like yo-yoed me a little bit, but those are my thoughts. I am basically about to binge watch the rest of the series so that I can get my notes down and I can get you guys more videos. So thank you so much for supporting this. I really appreciate it. I do enjoy talking about this. I do enjoy taking my notes. I even kind of enjoy trying to figure out what the hell they were trying to do sometimes. And I really enjoy like the discourse to be had. Like you guys have had some really interesting comments, and a grand majority of you are always really sweet and really kind and just want to have a good talk, you know? And I love that. And that's why we do this. So thank you so much. I really, really, truly appreciate you being here. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you so much for supporting that medium. Really, really appreciate you. I want to start doing some sort of like intro thing. Like there's one creator that I love. She has this thing where she asks people like, what was your win for the week? So I'm kind of like starting to think of like what little general question I can ask you whenever, you know, I start my video. Because I do want to get to like some of you podcast listeners. I want to ask you, because I guess Spotify has like a little Q&A section underneath each episode, so you're able to like post stuff on there. So I would love it eventually when I have like a little cute question for you guys to answer, like an uplifting question that you guys can comment, and you can comment in the Q&A portion on Spotify and the podcast. So if you guys have any suggestions for that, like just in line with that win for the week thing, I just don't want to take her win for the week thing, let me know. If you made it this far, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you. Please do like the video, please subscribe to the channel, and please click that bell because I do post regularly, but I don't post on a schedule. And sometimes when I have things kind of disrupt my life, like trips and things, it takes me a little while to get back on track. So that bell is really, really super helpful. If you would like to financially support me more directly, you can go ahead and check out like my PayPal, Venmo, it's all down there in the description. There's also a couple of affiliates for you to check out if you're interested. I also read tarot, so if you're interested in booking a reading, there's information in the description about that too. You may also follow me on social media if that's something you're into. I am on Instagram mostly, but I do have a TikTok. It's all at Embodying Mystical Mac. And I do have a music account that while I'm creating my music and getting my whole package and things together, I've been posting little mini covers on there, and that's at Mac and the Music. I believe I also created a TikTok for that, but I'm only active on Instagram right now. So check all that out. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. I love that so many people are, you know, watching the show, having opinions, whether you read the books or not. I just love that we can all get together and chat about some media. So I know the writer's strike is over. That's really exciting. Now it's just the actors, so hopefully that gets taken care of, because, you know, I know they can't stop, won't stop with this thing. So let's just see where it goes. Thank you. Appreciate you. Stay mystical. Stay grounded. May you always find water and shade, and I'll catch you next time.